I felt like I have been subject to racism, yeah. I'm not sure, it's sort of open to interpretation, you know, I mean, that's what I feel, and it's very subjective in that way, and I'm not sure whether other people involved in those scenarios felt that was the case.
Sure, I mean myself, I've had incidences on the street when people don't know who I am or have never spoken to me and they simply look at the exterior. There's a lot of stereotypes that fall into their head about who I am and my supposed limitations.
I've had to deal with being different and you know, the colour of my skin since I was a very young age. I mean, I remember that.
I suppose like no one is perfect and everyone has stereotypes in their head.
Like, say for instance, we're all kind of racist in some way.
I think in the last decade or so I've had a combination of perhaps overt and covert experiences where sometimes it's been very subtle from the way people have perhaps looked at me or inferred things to outright verbal aggression as well.
I've even had staff follow me around thinking I was stealing.
And he started calling them names and telling them to go home and get out of the country. Very aggressive abuse. It was a nice 5 or 10 minute type raid.
I used to get pulled over probably 3-4 times a day, just walking to a milk bar. I've had my Walkman smashed by a copper, been strip searched for no reason. Never had a criminal record. I've been questioned about a rape when I was living in Gippsland after I had my son. Because there was an Aboriginal person, I had the curly hair and I fit the description.
It's not a direct racism. I start experiencing indirect racism, you know.
It was an incident that happened on the train for me. The train was coming and I made sure I topped up my MyKey card. Immediately, an inspector came up to me and said, "Look, I saw your foot on the seat in front of you." And she was still really aggressive. The first thing she asked me after that was, "Are you from here?" I said, "Yeah, I'm from Reservoir."
This happened at the place I don't expect it to happen. It happened at the airport, at the immigration counter. And that's when we showed our passport and the immigration officer just looked at it and gave us a very mean look and said something I didn't expect. He said, "Indian passport, that's the worst country passport to have."
Well, we've had incidences where women have come to the Centre for Human Rights where they've explained that they'd apply for a job and have interviews over the phone. But when they presented for an interview and if they were either dark-skinned or wearing a scarf or both, they were frequently never got past the first interview.
I've got friends not only from India, from other part of the world as well, who have experienced the same thing. When they apply for jobs, they don't get an interview call.
It's harder when you're an Aboriginal person and you're copping it in your own country. And that's the hardest thing. Like, this is Aboriginal land, you're copping this, and it's been going on for centuries. People think to us, they're like, you need to get over it. You know, it was just like your great-grandfather. You know, it's not long ago.
When I was growing up on the community and I'd go into Ceduna at a party, people will say, "Oh, what nationality are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Aboriginal and I'm Greek." "Oh, wow, you look too beautiful to be Aboriginal."
I get a lot of the time as well, like, "Oh, you don't look Aboriginal," and "Oh, how much Aboriginal are you?" And that can be frustrating because I feel like no other culture really needs to break down how much like they are. Whenever I've asked someone what nationality they are, if they say they're Italian or anything, I never say, "Oh, how much Italian are you?"
I've copped it all my life, you can say, from a kid to still now.
I guess racism causes a lot of oppression.
So internally, it makes you furious and angry, the first thing is you just get defensive. I think psychologically it's got a big impact. And what it does is you don't feel like to go to work. You just don't want to leave your house, and you just don't want to integrate to the others. They make you feel like you are an outsider.
I have a lot of friends that actually work in big industries and they don't want to pray at work. They don't want no one to know that they're Muslim. Even when they're applying for a job now, they don't use Muslim names, they use Australian names because they feel like, purely believe it's because of the name that's been written on the resume.
I'm half Aboriginal and half white Australian. My mum's white Australian, but as a kid growing up, I used to hate being this colour of the skin. I used to think I was ugly because I was black. Being Aboriginal, felt ugly because my skin colour, always getting picked on, always someone calling you Abbo or you nigger or you're a dumb black, copping all that through your life. It brings your spirit down, you can say. Like, it really brings you really deep down, and it can hurt really. Racism, it's not good.
The thing about racism is that it's shifting its definition tremendously. People are unclear about what racism is.
What triggers all of this behaviour in the first place is the belief that it's okay to actually commit these offences in the first place.
There's an effect called the false consensus effect, whereby perpetrators overestimate support for their views, their racist views. They believe that they have a lot of support from everybody else, and the only way to dispel that myth is, of course, if bystanders speak up when they witness racism happening.
People who are involved in hate crime assume that the society or the bystanders are not going to act. That gives them a big boost as well.
The spectators of that incident have to work out if it's actually going to be a safe course of action to take.
You might not agree with what's happening or what you've witnessed, but some people aren't, confident enough to say something or stand up for someone even though they don't agree with what has happened.
People started standing up towards racism and stop it. It will make a difference. It will make someone like me more proud to be Aboriginal. Like, I am a proud Aboriginal person. I've copped a lot, but I'll be more prouder.
Oh, well, obviously, as I talk now, I would definitely say that I would do something, but I suppose if I was to be perfectly honest, in the moment, I couldn't actually say.
I think that it takes courage to be able to speak up and say something about that, but I think it's appropriate to do so.
Because it's not good to go bang at the start and irritate the other person.
And I would like to think that the other people who were around me at the time would also take a sort of realisation maybe they should have said something as well. I mean, hopefully there is one, it just takes one person to actually say something, and then obviously everyone else will sort of agree.
It will make a huge difference. If we stay silent about it, there's nothing that's going to be done.
So I do believe that change happens with one person, but it's who's going to make that change and how safe is it going to be the first person? Who's going to be the first person?
With the next generation of my kids, they don't have to be ashamed.
One person can change it a lot. If you look at Mandela changed the whole apartheid South Africa. If you look at Martin Luther King, the civil rights movement, he changed the whole thing. So if one person says something, it can change a lot.
I'm a young Yorta Yorta woman from Melbourne.
I came here as a student.
From a Waka Waka Bunjalung man.
I'm an international student from India.
I'm originally from New Zealand.
I call myself a Darabinian.